Okay, so here we have Edna being impacted by Mademoiselle Reitz. We have the tension, nature versus society. Nature is at work in Edna through the arts. The social roles of women, according to this text, are really shown as being unnatural and destined to fail. Destined to be overthrown. By what? By nature itself. By what is boiling up in Edna, and most likely all women. All humans will reject that which is unnatural eventually. Will throw off the trappings of unnatural society. So again, this tension, nature versus society. An interesting one in the text itself. So Edna and the ocean, I love the connection here. In chapter 10, it talks about how she learned to swim during the summer. Edna had attempted, in chapter 10 it says, Edna had attempted all summer to learn to swim. She had received instructions from both the men and women, in some instances from the children. Robert had pursued a system of lessons almost daily, and he was nearly at the point of discouragement in realizing the futility of his efforts. Interesting that Edna is able to swim or learn to swim, and Robert's not. A certain ungovernable dread hung about her when in the water, unless there was a hand nearby that might reach out and reassure her. But that night she was like the little tottering, stumbling, clutching child who of a sudden realizes its powers and walks for the first time alone, boldly, and with overconfidence. She could have shouted for joy. She did shout for joy, as with a sweeping stroke or two, she lifted her body to the surface of the water. A feeling of exultation overtook her, as if some power of significant import had been given her to control the working of her body and her soul. Two things. To control her body and her soul. That's a very important thing. She's learning to control her body and her soul. The learning to swim, clearly connected now to learning to express her soul, learning to dive into the depths of her soul and see what's there and understand herself and who she really is. She grew daring and reckless, overestimating her strength. She wanted to swim out far, where no woman had swum before. So again, her awakening is connected to a childlike state. She's called a tottering, clutching child. There's, again, a return to innocence, that theme, that idea. Also connected to other women. Here in this text, here in this passage, she is connected to other women. She wanted to swim out far where no woman had swum before. Earlier, there's a mention I mentioned Edna's role as a woman in society. Part of this is the text challenging. Edna's character challenges the roles of women in society. What does it mean to be a woman in society? If we jump over to chapter 11, again, we see more of Edna and her awakening. And much of the beginning of this text is about what it means for Edna to awaken. And what is she awakening from? What is she awakening from? What is she leaving behind? What sleep state? What binding sleep state is she leaving behind? Edna began to feel like one who awakens gradually out of a dream, a delicious, grotesque, impossible dream, to feel again the realities pressing into her soul. The physical need for sleep began to overtake her. The exuberance which had sustained and exalted her spirit left her helpless and yielding to the conditions which crowded her in. This is a really good passage to do a kind of a close reading of. So let's look closely at some of the diction, some of the key words. Chopin is employing some complex paradoxical elements. The use of paradox. She uses the words delicious, grotesque, impossible. She uses the terms exuberance, exalted, helpless, yielding, and crowded. These are not words that go together naturally. There are some paradoxical phrases, paradoxical understandings here. Chopin, in this way, describes or sets Edna's journey up as one that is difficult and complicated, not just easy and simple. There are romantic elements here in some ways. We might say that Edna is on an individual journey, a journey of individual or self-discovery. This could be seen as a coming-of-age, a Bildungsroman, this coming-of-age story. All right, so as we see her develop, we'll jump over to chapter 15. I'll be right back.